Welcome back to 15 with Fosca and to this very special edition of the podcast coming to you live from the 2025 Florence, Italy Extraordinary Speakers Conference. I sat down to speak with Louise Evans, director and owner at the Five Chairs, TEDx speaker, author, and coach. The Five Chairs is a powerful and transformative model for successful living and leading, designed as a tool for every woman, man, and child on the planet. Here's what we talked about. Thank you so much, Louise, for your inspiring work and for such a wonderful chat. I know you'll all enjoy listening to Louise as much as I and everyone else present at the conference for her keynote did. Thank you so much.
Louise,
yes.
It is such a delight to be sitting here talking to you today.
Thank you. Lovely to be with you.
Live from Extraordinary Speakers Florence 2025.
Yes.
So tell me all about your talk today. You're the keynote speaker. You are the founder of Five Chairs.
Yes.
Tell us about this. What is Five Chairs? Talk to me.
Well, today was all about empowering women. So the Five Chairs is really very appropriate for this title because the idea of the Five Chairs is, you know that in life as we go through a day, some days are good, some days are less good, sometimes we behave well, sometimes we behave less well, and there are triggers in life, I mean, people do things to us which can upset us. But the Five Chairs is about how can we become more and more aware of our attitudes, of our behaviors. It's basically what we're saying and what we're doing on a daily basis.
Okay.
So that we can have a positive impact on ourselves and also a productive impact on the people around us. Because, you know, when we misbehave, or when we get into a conversation or a situation or a relationship where things go wrong, the tension builds, we can damage relationships, for example. And then then we have to spend time mending, healing them. So it's like there's a lot of behavioral wastage and sort of conversational wastage. And by that, what I mean is behaviors which are not useful or productive, or conversations which are not useful or productive. So it's about how can we be a little bit more conscious of what we're doing so that we come away from most situations having created something productive and also being the best version of ourselves. Because then it makes you feel much better about yourself and life in general.
So in practical terms, how do you do that, please? Because what you said really resonates with me, and I feel like it resonates with a lot of people. There is this wasted energy and wasted words. So how do you how do you get rid of that and sort of get to the stuff that makes your life better?
Well, I think that the biggest thing is to be very much in contact with yourself as you are doing things. So it's like taking a mirror. It's about self-awareness. It's being conscious of what you are producing as far as ideas which come through your speaking and your attitudes, and the impact that they're having on the world in every moment. Now, with the Five Chairs, what happens is that they represent five different attitudes or five different ways of being in the world. Which two of them are not a bit painful and sometimes not very useful, and three of them are much more productive. So, for example, if you're in the red chair, you're bringing your negative self into the world. You're complaining and blaming and gossiping and judging and criticizing. We all do it, but it's about the quantity of that. Because if you see yourself sort of saying, shut up, and you see yourself snapping at another person, you can catch yourself and decide to shift. And it's about that. If you can view yourself as you're going into a behavior or an attitude, particularly negative ones, then it's about the choice that you can change it. Now, it's not easy. I mean, often we find ourselves in an emotion and it's too late, and then you have to scramble back. The more you practice it, or for example, the second chair, the yellow chair, is when you become a bit of a victim, you don't believe in yourself, I can't do that, and what am I going to do? And there again, you can stay there and get stuck in the mud, and it doesn't help you and it doesn't help people around you, or you can say, okay, I'm having a moment. I need to just take a deep breath and look at what it is in me that is creating me creating this level of self-doubt. And how can I face that?
Yeah.
And maybe I can ask for help. Maybe I can help myself. But let's be conscious that I'm in that mood now.
Yeah.
Then the other chairs move into like the meerkat chair, the green chairs, where when somebody may be winding you up, you take a meerkat moment to take a deep breath and say, okay, wait a minute. And that's all about calming yourself down before you jump into the red chair, the jackal chair, where you start fighting back. So when you have self-control, you can then make a choice of whether you want to go into the dolphin chair, the blue chair, which is where you're assertive. You know yourself, you know your value, you learn to speak up, you learn to speak your truth. You explain yourself to other people. And this is all about the whole discovery of who am I. And knowing that you're not perfect, but you have many gifts and many talents that you can bring to the world, and believing in those. So you can be assertive, or you can go into the giraffe chair, which is a giraffe because the giraffe has the biggest heart of all land animals. And there it's about understanding what is important for other people. So you're empathizing.
Yeah.
So and empathy means you have to put your ego aside and concentrate on the other person. And that's not straightforward.
No, for a lot of people it isn't, Louise. Not at all.
Absolutely. It takes practice and just the use of language, like what is important for that person. Ask them, what do you need now? What is important for you right now? Can really shift the whole situation.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you're trying to stay in the meerkat chair where you're doing self-control, and then moving into a chair of assertiveness where you're not giving your power away, but you're not dominating another person. And you're creating the appropriate boundaries for balance. Or really going into empathy and trying to understand where the other person is coming from, listening to them, holding them in your space, feeling compassionate towards them. And the sort of best style of living is when you're moving between those three chairs, basically.
I love that. I love it because it's very visual and it's very useful.
Yeah,
in other
practical.
words, it's very practical, and you've explained it really clearly, and it makes perfect sense to me. And I like the idea of movement, Louise.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I'm sure I want to talk to you a little bit about your background as well. I'm not sure how you came, maybe you'll talk about how you came up with the 5 chairs. But for someone like me, already in the name, it's already appealing to me because for me, a chair doesn't suggest, maybe, I don't know, but this is strange, it doesn't suggest stopping.
Right.
Because maybe I think of musical chairs or something, but it does suggest to me some kind of movement. And I like that.
Yeah.
What you said is like, if you can keep yourself between those 3 chairs, that's sort of where you want to be.
Yeah.
So where did the idea where did the concept come from excuse me?
Yeah, well, I basically, with the relationship, interesting relationship I had with my mother, which was love-hate, really. And there were certain things in her behavior which I didn't appreciate too much, but then there were plenty of things about my behavior which I didn't appreciate either.
Sure.
So I went on alongside my professional career, I went on a spiritual path where I came across some extraordinary teachers. Starting with Thich Nhat Hanh, so that was mindfulness, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk. Then Eckhart Tolle, who's the German teacher, basically, who really helps you understand how your mind works. Extraordinary. And another person, very, very important in my life, and I frequented for a long time, was Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication. So I think on my road to becoming a better person, also improving my relationship with my mother, I came across some extraordinary, I think it's the things that really helped me change, and I have seen an enormous change in myself. It took time. I mean, it took it's about 25 years.
It takes a long time. It's hard work working on yourself.
Exactly. But I thought, is this something that I can create which could help people take less time than 20 years? So the 5 chairs was designed for that, because they are visual and because there is a sort of logical nature about them, and because we sit in all the chairs, but it's about being conscious of spending more time in certain chairs and less time in other chairs.
I love that.
So it was designed basically for myself and my mother, but then it worked on me, so I thought, let's try it on other
Maybe it'll work
people.
on someone else.
Yeah, that's right. And so then it's now become my job, basically.
Well, so tell me how, I mean, it's a big deal, and people talk about the 5 chairs. There's a book. I know you've done TED Talks on it. So how do people respond to it? How do your clients, or, I mean, how do people?
Well, it's interesting, because I thought, if I'm going to take this into the business world, I'm going to have to test it on bankers, engineers, and IT guys.
Yeah.
Because if they go with this, because often there is an attitude. I mean, I don't want to overgeneralize, but there's often an attitude that this is fluffy, soft skill
for sure,
stuff.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, if they respond to it, I'm okay. And they did. And you know why? Because when you see the chairs up in front of you, it's logical.
That's what I think it is. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying to you. It's something that anyone, no matter what they're, what they do for a living or whatever, we can all, it's relatable.
Yes, it's relatable. It's psycho-accessible.
Exactly.
But it's also, people can look at themselves and say to themselves, oh yeah, I do that a little bit, without feeling threatened.
Exactly.
So, they can contemplate as they work with the chairs about their own behaviors.
While you were talking, in fact, when you first, it really struck a chord with me, and usually I'm not someone who's easily struck. I don't know how else to say it, but I am someone who's on a perpetual quest to improve myself and to evolve. And I really like what you said, because I don't like myself at all when I'm in the gossipy or envious chair.
Yes.
And I try to spend as little time as possible in that chair. Sure. That's a conscious decision I made a long time ago.
Yes.
Because a lot of people spend way too much time in that chair, and I don't like spending time with those people. Right. So in other words, I love the fact that you've laid it out like that, because it's non-judgmental. It recognizes that we're all...
And we all have choices.
We all have choices, and we all can say, you know what, I don't like the way I am in that chair.
Yes.
I'd rather be in that other chair. And so I like it, because what it does is it makes you more cognizant and more aware of how, it's exactly what you said, the way you are interacting with your world, but that you have agency in that, and you can change it.
That's it.
And you can say, I don't need to be that petty person.
That's it.
I want to be the person who's empathetic.
Yes.
I want to be the person who's creative.
Yeah, and plus the fact that all the chairs have scripts. It's like there is a language and an attitude and an approach to life and way of being in every chair. And exactly what you said, we are familiar with all of them.
Oh, yeah.
But some people will be more empathetic, some people will be more assertive, some people might be a little bit more aggressive. But it's like, well, where am I? And and the real question is, where do I want to be more? Really, in order to create around me a life which is, is number one, productive, but also to create, how could I say it? I mean, conversations full of, or relationships where there is affection and love and respect and tolerance. That.
Yeah, I think another thing that really struck with me, because it struck a chord with me, and I like the method for so many reasons, and I'm glad that you pointed out that the corporate world responded to it as well. But I think about it on a human level.
Yes.
And I think, God, all those wasted conversations that maybe were just gratuitously mean sometimes because we were in that chair.
Yes, indeed.
And how easy it is for us to choose not to be in that chair with our partner, with our friends, in the workplace.
And the experimentation is the fun part.
I like that idea.
Because it's like, it's interesting, because the TED Talk is doing really, really well, actually, because it's got about 6.5 million views. But
Louise, that's huge.
Think,
this is the 5 chairs one.
Yeah, but I've only done one.
I've seen it.
Yes.
It's great.
But you know why? I love the comments below, because people are saying, I've been in the hedgehog and the jackal chair all my life. I didn't even know there was a choice.
Exactly.
And I think that is the magic for me, is that even kids will do that, because we work with children in schools as well to give them self-agency early on.
Thank goodness.
Even the kids are saying, today I feel like a hedgehog, but I want to be a dolphin. So then it's about, what do you need to do to move into that chair where you're more secure and you're safe and more confident with yourself.
Yeah. And it's more than just it's not a question of language. or just a question of language, or just a question of an attitude shift. I mean, the fact that you're working with young kids is very exciting to me, because I think that, a lot of the way we are, obviously, is tied up to, what society tells us from a young age, what our parents tell us, the way we're conditioned. Absolutely. And so, but instead of being told, don't be grumpy, nobody likes a grumpy person, or don't have a tantrum, or don't do this. How nice it is that somebody can actually say to you, it's okay.
What's going on?
Yeah. Let's think about it. Right?
That's it. I think this is it. It's also teaching, if somebody is being a jackal and being really cheesed off or whatever, then you have a choice of saying, okay, I understand that person. I've been there too.
Right.
There's something going on in that person that I need to understand.
That's it.
And so you try to connect with that rather than block, because, otherwise you block off the whole conversation. It's
No, and I think as sort of we're coming to the end of it, the beauty that I see in the 5 chairs is that, that we do have that the mobility, the evolution, and also just to go back to it, just the, and I love that you're working with kids on this, because, gosh, I think if we just can really change the narrative there, and if kids can really start expressing themselves, then they'll be better adults.
Exactly. I mean, we work with bullyism in schools, and it's like, if you can give children a script to use, then they will use it immediately.
Yeah.
Like you can say, well, what could you say to a bully? And you can give them the language and say, why are you talking to me like that?
Yeah.
And that can throw a bully sideways.
Exactly.
But it's like building up the confidence in a young person to be able to say something like that, take it on board, and then help them.
Thank you, Louise. I mean, this is a great, for me, it's a pretty big revelation, because I think it maybe because I'm visual as well. And so for me to see something like that it's more powerful for me.
Yes.
But I love the fact that you've come up with this method that is so applicable to so many of us, and gives us the tools, toward living a better life, more agency, more happiness,
Well, thank you for your appreciation. I really, really do thank you for that.
I thank you for coming, and I can't wait to read the book.
Great, I hope you enjoy it.
I'm going to go grab it. You know I will. Thanks, Louise.